Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We're your hosts. I'm Randy.
I'm Joe.
This is episode 54 of our podcast, and the date is Wednesday, September 20th, 2021. What's new, my man?
Well, we didn't play this past weekend, but we're playing this weekend coming up.
Yes, so we're not going to have a mud sword segment today, but we're going to have one next week because we're trying out some new rules. I may even throw a curveball. I sent Joe my second try through. He made some adjustments. I may adjust it again and just wing it, throw it at you on Saturday.
Right. The only thing mud sword related is that we could even talk about would be that that I've got some draft spells. They're not new. They're just slightly rewritten for brevity, because you wouldn't believe all the verbiage they have in those spells that are unnecessary. And it's not even fluff.
No.
A lot of it is the duration is in the duration slot, the little duration description, but then they talk, and it lasts this long.
Right. I got you.
It is in the description. So
3 rounds. I got it already. Thanks for telling me 6 times.
So redundant stuff, and that and all that. I got all the first level magic user spells, and had an interesting exchange with Jason about skills. We were talking about just before we started recording some back and forth on Anchor. And for those who are listening that don't know anything about Anchor podcasts, our podcast is distributed on Anchor, and it's kind of a thing with the Anchor podcasters, all the D&D podcasters, role-playing podcasters on Anchor, maybe not all of them, but a segment of them like to call into the other podcasts. And there's a function on the Anchor app that lets you do that. And so that's how Jason and I were going back and forth a little bit about skills. Right. So, and we in our system in Mudsword, we're going to be using something more like backgrounds a la 13th Age. And I think Jason likes that. Yeah. So he was like, we were talking about skill systems and stuff like that. So
cool. Yeah, I thought one thing I think one more Mudsword comment. I said we're going to talk about it, but also I mentioned before we started, I want cleric spells to be more like not just the word miracles. I just don't want it to seem, I don't want clerics to look like they're necessarily casting spells the way a wizard does. The wizard waves his hands and says all these crazy words. I'd rather just a cleric go, by the power of so and so, I bless you. The blessing of
random god
health, the blessing of this, and we know it's healing and stuff like that, but that's kind of how I want it to be. And I might word it when I write the cleric spells tomorrow that way. So, and they're going to be less of them, but anyway,
less holy wizards,
right? Less holy wizards, and that was really what they were. They're just wizards with certain spells that wizards couldn't cast. Though you and I found out the RC actually has healing in the wizard spell list.
Just one. Yeah.
But what do they call it? It's cure all. It's called cure all for the clerics, but is it called healing for the wizard?
Well, that's another thing. Cure all for the wizard, the 9th level spell, says it's identical to the heal spell for clerics, or whatever it's called for the cleric. It says it's identical. Now, it could have just stopped there and referred to it, but instead it had all kinds of other things. So, and I didn't cross-reference to see if it was the same. So if those things that it continued on with are different, then it's actually not identical. So
identical except for not really identical.
And it doesn't say that. It just says it's identical. Blah, 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 blah.
You keep using that word.
Yeah. So, it's an early work. Editing was a challenge for early RPG books. So
I would argue I think it's and I'm not knocking any RPG creators. I think that would be
it still is. Yeah, you're right.
I looked at the adventure I wrote the other day. I found so many I need an editor. Send it to Joe to edit it. All right. So let's hop into a call-ins and emails if we got any. Did we get
Yes,
any?
we have a few call-ins from Jason.
Oh, yes. The man, the myth, the legend.
Yes. Hold on a second. No. Sure.
Yes, share with me so I can hear Jason's great information. Starting with safety tools or something else?
Yes. Yes.
Hey guys, in no particular order, you talked about the professional GMs, and part of that you mentioned safety tools. And I want to admit that I played in a couple games past week or so where safety tools were used. They were, a guy was getting back in jamming after a 15-year hiatus, and he wanted to use safety tools. But nobody knew each other in these groups, and so I played 2 games with them, and again, it was different people each time, and so nobody knew each other. And the safety tool part took like 4 minutes in the beginning of the game. He's like, hey, these are the kind of things that I don't want to see in the game, like harm to domestic pets, stuff like that. And is there anything anybody here, is a problem if they see it in the game? Okay. And then we moved on and played the game, and nothing came of it. Nobody brought up those subjects, and it wasn't an issue.
Live with that.
So I am still of the mind, if you've been playing with a group for years, then you guys have already incorporated this internally. You know the limits, you know each other anyway, but probably. But for new groups, if it's incorporated right and easily in the beginning of the game, I don't think it hurts anything, and it can potentially, avoid some awkward situations, especially when nobody knows each other. They're all random people on the internet playing a random game on the internet. It helps to avoid awkward situations. So I can't say they hurt anything. They didn't hinder the game at all. So that's my recent experience with safety tools.
What do you think, Joe? I mean, I think that's the one argument that I could at least listen to. I don't play games like that. I mean,
That's
I don't
the caveat we always say.
Right.
The caveat.
Yeah.
These are not needed at your home game. These are needed with people you don't know.
Yeah, but he makes a good point. A lot of things maybe, I don't know, a lot of things. That's not true. I think we might know touchy subjects for some people, and so we may try to not offend our friends or hurt our friends' feelings. But I don't know how hard I don't know if it's something I really consciously think about. I just, when it comes across, I don't know if it does. I mean, I guess
we know each other. We have a group dynamic already. That that makes this thing moot for us, right, because we know each other.
Yeah,
we have a dynamic, all that.
And I've never played with random folks on the internet. I have played at random folks at Gen Con and other conventions, and that was, several years back, but I never had an issue. That doesn't mean it's not a thing. And some people may just feel better, I guess, about it. But to me, it just, I don't know. I would never sit at a table and go, oh, I'm concerned about this or that.
Right. Me either.
I just wouldn't.
But, it's different day and age, I guess.
But to be fair, if they went down a road that I thought was disgusting or gross, I might be like, hey, dudes, is this how you're going to roll? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, look, I'm not into this. See ya.
Right.
And I want to be a butthole about it. They are you mad? I'm not mad. I'm just not into this.
Right.
Whatever you're doing.
Yeah. I think
my feelings aren't hurt. I'm not asking for my money back. I'll see you.
Yeah. For me, if I were to, like, say, go to a convention, and I had a choice between 2 tables, and the one table had safety tools, there was like a sign up, and the other one said didn't. I would go to the other table.
I would, because I would feel like, I think, fair or not, I would feel like the safety tool table is probably filled with people that I would perceive as kind of whiny, even if that's not true.
Right.
And so I'm you. I would just be like, it's a knee-jerk reaction, right or wrong, I'm out. But to each their own, do what you want, man. That hurt my feelings.
Right. That doesn't necessarily mean the other table's going to be better. It's just probably that's the way I would gravitate.
You may find after you do it, the safety tool table was actually a lot better.
Yeah,
they're having a good time.
Possible.
I wish I was playing that. Yeah, I've done that. I've like had a choice and chose the wrong table before for less fun.
Right. But yeah, strangers, useful. Yeah, that's our caveat that I think we've said that from the first time we talked about
I
these.
think last time we're both were kind of like, safety
I,
tools are dumb.
I
But
do. I think they're dumb. I think
I don't see why you would ever use them, but
it's
people might have.
it's a preemptive thing.
Yeah. And I say just deal with it when it comes up. That's
yeah. But that's not how everybody thinks. So
As far as board games with apps, this is a trend that's been going on for at least a decade now. Primarily Fantasy Flight Games is a big one in it. Of course, they do Descent. So there's two different ways they've gone about this in the past. The second edition to Descent in Star Wars Imperial Assault, which is like Descent Star Wars Edition, both had apps you could get so you could run them solo or co-op, but you didn't have to have the app to run the game. You could still run the game without the app. But they also sold games like Mansions of Madness Second Edition, a Call of Cthulhu game, and XCOM, based on the XCOM video games, where you could not play the game without the app. I haven't looked at this new version of Descent, but it sounds like you can't play the new version of Descent without the app. And if that's the case, that's a bad thing. If you have the option to use the app or not, then I don't think it's a big deal.
I think option would be fine. That
And
would
I
bother
say
me.
that
say it again.
I'm sorry. I would say, I think having the option where you're optional play, or hey, if you want to play by yourself, you can use the app. That wouldn't bother me. That'd be kind of cool if I wanted to solo play Descent,
Right.
and I could use the app to act like the judge or whoever the dude is. Yeah. Sorry.
And I say that because I have board games that I've owned for, since the 80s that I still play. And, these games, you have to have an app to run them. How long is that app going to be supported? Is it going to be supported for 20, 30 years? If not, then what do you do when the app is gone and you can't play that game anymore? Now it's just a pile of trash. So if there's a way to play the game without the app, the app doesn't bother me. I don't mind it. But if you can't play the game without the app, I won't buy the board game. And in fact, I'm in the process of selling the ones I have, like Mansions of Madness third or second edition and XCOM that have the app, because I don't want to get caught at a point where I can't play them anymore.
I don't think we mentioned. I didn't even think of that. Did you, Joe, last time? That the app would actually. I mean, he's right.
Yeah, we didn't, but that is a good point. The difference between the older games with apps and potentially with newer games with apps is, yes, they could just entirely stop support. But what the other thing they could do is, for continued support, send us some cash.
Pay to play.
They could. I don't know if they will. I don't know if there's some caveat in their end user license agreement that everybody signs but nobody reads, that has some language in there that says, we're not going to charge for any upgrades or anything like that. So it's possible that you're supposed to be guaranteed free upgrades as long as, when you buy the game.
They can't promise forever though.
No, but in the current age of how apps and apps work on your phone is, oh, you want to hit the start button, it's $5. You want to do this, $5, or it's smaller. It's like $1 for this, $1 for that. And they pay to play is a big thing. So
yeah,
I don't know if that would translate over to a board game that has an app required for play.
And app games, my wife plays some games on her iPad that are paid, they're not pay to play. You get the game for free, but you got a lot of in-app purchases to be able to do stuff.
Pay to win.
Yeah, pay to win. And then I was shocked when he said, not shocked, just being old. They've been around for 10 years. They've had app-based games for 10 years. Man, I really am old. I don't play board games much.
Well, there's a lot of games that have apps that simulate the gameplay that aren't required for the game, but like you said,
right,
it lets you play co-op or multiplayer with just you.
Yeah,
Solo or co-op. and or let somebody play remotely or whatever. Anyway, I've heard of apps like that, and then there's a talisman app.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it just fully simulates the game. I've heard it's buggy, but it's out there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I agree completely with Jason.
Yeah, he's spot on.
So, player agency for your next topic. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it. I'll give you a couple thoughts. I won't even hold your wrong, bad opinions on beer against you on this. So, as far as player agency goes, I don't think you're actually circumventing player agency as long as the player gets to make decisions on what the character does. I think you as the GM can put things in place that are going to limit their decisions or alter their perceptions, but it's still up to the player to make those decisions, right? So what's the common thing we talk about with player agency? Charm person. So let's get into that. You can charm a PC. You can have an NPC cast charm person on a PC without taking away their player agency. Now, if you so your evil necromonger casts charm person on your PC, right? Okay. Now, if you, the GM, then take control of the PC and the player sits there twiddling their thumbs, then yes, you've taken away their player agency. But if instead you say, okay, player, now your character believes A, B, and C, and play them like they believe that, and then you let the player play the character according to those new directives that their new buddy who charmed them told them, then you have not taken away their player agency. So I think how you handle it determines how much player agency you take away or how much they still have.
I personally, I agree with Jason. He's right. I don't really care, honestly. If it's in the game, it's in the game. I don't know what to tell you. Spell.
Here's a worse one.
Domination.
No, here's a worse one than that.
Oh, okay.
Turn to stone.
That's total agency removed.
Yeah, they can't do anything. They can't even watch themselves get puppeted because they're just a pile of rock now.
Yeah.
And too bad, so sad, you failed your save, whatever.
Sorry about your luck.
I think, and I'm not going to poo-poo on anybody who likes player agency. I'm just going to say it's overrated.
Well, I think it's overrated. And is Jason predicting about tonight's topic? Because tonight's a little player agency related, but it's also a little different.
Prepared the way.
You did. Ooh.
I talked about player choice, so perhaps
agency would be a natural connection. Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll get there. I like that. That's a good discussion. Have we done a player agency? I don't think we have.
We've talked about it.
We may have to veer into it tonight. I like it.
Veer.
Okay.
We're going to veer.
I like telling players they get none at my table. Shut up and love it. Joe.
I also think that the GM limiting the options in a game, like you can't play these kind of classes in this game, or these species aren't available in this game, that's not limiting player agency at all. That's just you setting your world. So again, not limiting player agency. So really, I think player agency is only limited when you won't let players make choices, and players need to make choices that make sense in the world. So obviously, if they're like, oh yeah, we're always going to make gunpowder and Molotov cocktails when you're playing in a caveman game, well, that's just a player being stupid. But like I say with the charm person example, just because now they love this NPC and they're going to do what the NPC asks them, doesn't mean the player doesn't get to decide how they do what the NPC asks them. So I don't view that as a loss of player agency.
That actually brings up something important. I had mentioned that, I don't know when it was, but I hate when players do that. You get players that do, and maybe this will be tonight. Let me look at the topic. Yeah, that's going to come up. What he talked about, caveman game, and I'm going to make gunpowder. Okay, just because the player knows how to make gunpowder. We'll get to that. Yeah.
I guess the other topic that might bring up are railroads and things like that. And you guys have kind of talked about railroads before. You know, as long as you're not saying, well, there's 2 doors here. Well, I want to go through the left door. No, you're not allowed to. You have to go through the right door. And, you know, as long as you're not totally, like, making decisions for them, but your world, it doesn't have to be a total sandbox. And if players are playing a game, then they're buying into the concept of the game. But as long as it's not a super duper railroad, like you just finished the combat, okay, now and you tell them, okay, your characters do this, this, and this, and now you're back in the tavern. Well, what if they didn't want to do that? What if they wanted to go somewhere else? No, you're not allowed to. You're back in the tavern. That's a railroad. But as long as you're letting them kind of do what they want to do within the structures of the story and all, then you're not railroading them, and they have total player agency. So, interested to hear you.
Oh yeah, I think that's going to be part of the discussion tonight a little bit.
Sounds like he got a little cut off there at the end.
Okay. Yeah,
But that's fine. I'm pretty sure he finished what he was talking about.
sounds like Jason's pretty. I think we're pretty simpatico with him on that.
Yeah.
I know it-
So as long as it's not a total railroad and you can make choices, then it's worth playing.
Yes.
I remember the first time I heard the phrase player agency, I rolled my eyes.
Did you?
I sure did. Player, what are you talking about? And I think it's a catchphrase and a concept where people are framing their dissatisfaction with DMs who are maybe more railroady, or they think they should have more say-so. So they came up with this phrase, player agency. I could be wrong. There could be some history behind it, but that's the way it just seems to me. And because when we were growing up in the game, at the tender young age of 13 and going up from there, we just played. We didn't care.
No, and
We
if
always had choices. You always we were always had scenarios set before you, and they're like, here's the thing, what do you do?
And I remember you guys saying, "Hey, let's play Temple of Elemental Evil."
Yeah,
you guys would request that module, and I go, okay. And then, and if we got to Hamlet, and you guys, we're not going to the temple, we're going out here. I'd be like, what game did you guys agree to play?
Right.
I get that you can choose whatever you want, but okay, let's go. I got nothing prepared. Let's go. Let's play basketball because apparently you don't want to play D&D.
Right.
I mean, and that's not really good of me. I think as a more sophisticated and incredibly skilled dungeon master at 54, I would of course handle that and railroad your butts right back to Hamlet, no matter which way you went.
Right. Yeah, you had a kind of a way of convincing us to go a particular way, but it didn't. That kind of stuff didn't come up very often.
No, you guys didn't. You guys didn't metacognitively think about that.
I think we did.
You would say, Randy wants us to do this.
Yeah, I think we had some of the same hijinks as just about everybody else back in the day. You go into a bar, and the bar, we don't take no sass off a bartender, and then all of a sudden, all the bartenders are either retired archmages or paladins, or you can't beat them, and you make it real clear. Don't mess with this bartender.
Yep. Wake up butt naked in a swamp, you'd be changing the tune real quick.
I do remember some conversations about, why do you guys always get in a fight in the bar?
Why are you picking on these farmers, dude?
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're pretty simpatico on that.
Yeah, we are. All right. Who's next?
Hey there guys, it's John here from the Red Dice Diaries, just listening to your naming conventions episode where you're talking about the list. And yeah, I've got to agree with you, to be perfectly honest. I don't really need a list to tell me what sort of companies I should and shouldn't be buying for. I can make that decision on my own, based on my own criteria and my own opinions. No one's really going to be telling me like, oh, you shouldn't buy this because of what someone else thinks. I can see the logic of trying to allow people to make an informed choice, but personally I'd rather look at stuff and make my own mind up. That's just my 2 cents anyway. I should have said my 2 silver pieces if I'm rocking that silver piece standard. Catch you in a bit, guys. Thanks very much for the episode. Very much enjoyed it. Take care.
Yeah, the way some people framed that was, it's like Consumer Reports. It's a Consumer Reports report on gaming companies. There was no directives in it or anything like that. But, you know, I know most of it already, and it's easy to pick.
But
So
to be fair, the person that wrote the list has their own opinions too.
Yeah.
They might have a game company that be like, yeah, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
You know, so who knows? Yeah, I agree with John. Make your own mind up, dude. About what you
The
want.
buying guide, not a directive.
Yeah, yeah.
And, but the only caveat I'll add to it is something I might have said when we did talk about it, is that it's comical more than anything else, from the point of view of, you know, the folks that whined about it when it came out are the ones who will want you to lose your job and starve.
Yep.
And laugh about it.
Or I don't know, maybe get kicked out of Gen Con.
Or maybe. So instead of just saying, we don't like these folks.
Right.
If that's all that it ever was from the start of all this,
yep,
I could care less.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey there, John from the Red Dice Diaries again. Just finished listening to your naming conventions episode. Very much enjoyed it. Yeah, when it comes to games where they're sort of pushing the identity politics first and foremost, I've got to admit, any game where first and foremost there's anything other than people enjoying the game and having fun, when anything else is set higher than that, I tend to just go, nah, I'll pass on that, to be honest. So a lot of these games, they make these big bold statements of like, if you are X, Y, and Z, or if you're not X, Y, and Z, don't buy a game. I'm like, already one step ahead of you, dude. And I tend not to be buying them anyway. But that's just my thoughts. Enjoy the episode, guys. Take it easy and keep up the good work. I'll catch you soon.
Right on. You want me to buy your games? I won't do it, dude.
Right. It's real easy. These folks have really made it really easy for me to save money.
Yeah.
Put the identity out first, and then I'm gonna buy it.
I wish I knew the lady's name. There's some lady that's written for Marvel and DC comics, and it was on the quartering this week. She came out and she was bemoaning in some interview how Marvel and DC comics have gone way down. She was the same one who in 2017 said, you can't help but write your own politics in comics. They're going to come through. Hey, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my comics. And I was like, and people said, okay.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. Now she's whining about, the comics industry's in trouble. Yeah, quit putting your politics right out there up front and ram it down my throat.
Yeah, there are some folks, and I don't know how much I agree with them, but there are folks that'll say these folks don't buy comics, or they don't buy RPGs, or they'll buy them and just put them on the shelf. They won't play them. And I've always like, well, you don't really know that. But with the comics, at the very least, those of us who are dissatisfied with them won't buy them. You too.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we won't buy them. And there's there's some evidence that there's enough of us who haven't bought them that they're actually feeling the burn.
Oh no, there's not evidence, Joe. Manga is beating the living crap out of U.S. comics.
Right.
That's a thing
I've heard
they should ever worry about. That's in the past, before 4 or 5 years ago, manga was, there's a lot of people like it, but in the U.S., Batman, Superman, X-Men, Spider-Man, they're the king, dude.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. They're getting their butts handed to them. And it's because the manga's not preaching at everybody.
Right.
So, at least for the most part, from what I gather, I don't read manga, so maybe.
Okay,
that's what I hear.
Do some weird thing here. I see that there's a message missing.
Oh.
Really? So he sent another message after the fantasy name ones you see here. I'm going to restart this and see if it shows up.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
Oh, you think John sent another one?
He did.
Oh. Okie doke.
Yep, there it is.
Okay, sweet.
All right.
Fantasy names, and then there's another one. Yeah.
Hey there guys, John here again from the Red Dice Stories. Just listening to you answering Jason's call about naming conventions in games. And I've got to say, I sympathise when it comes to like the weird and wacky names that can sound a bit ridiculous. tell you what I've done in my recent game is on fantasy name generators. They've got like an American colonial name generator, and I've been using that because a lot of those names are fairly familiar ones, like you said, like your Johnson, Jackson, whatever, that we used to nowadays. But then just occasionally you'll get like an odd one in there that's not sort of like weird in a fantasy way, but it's like a non-common name nowadays, and that gets a nice mix of the familiar and the unfamiliar as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I'm going to get back to listening to the episode. Take it easy, and I'll catch you soon.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, it is. Thanks,
It's
John.
it's also John just outed himself out as a colonialist.
He did. He's totally colonialist.
He's hosed.
Oh well. Oh well.
It's not popular.
Nope, not popular anymore, John. Better think about that.
It's your position.
Hey there guys, it's John here from the Red Dice Diaries, just listening to your latest episode, very much enjoying it, and I just wanted to thank you for your recommendation of the band Big Big Train, and not a band I was familiar with, so I've just been listening to some of their stuff on YouTube, and I'm going to work my way through their back catalogue. Sounds like just the sort of thing I'd be interested in listening to, particularly when I'm doing some work or when I'm prepping a game or stuff like that, which I know was part of the point of having it in your episode. So again, thank you very much for the recommendation. Keep up the good work, guys, and I'll catch you soon.
Point for Joe.
Yeah.
Big Train.
Big Train. Progressive rock. If you like progressive rock, you will likely like Big Train.
Yes, that's a lot of words that are close to each other. Likely like big.
You will likely be in like with.
You may become in like with.
Yes.
Yes. Is that it? Are we done?
We are done.
Dang.